Welcome to the UNSECURITY podcast. Each week, Evan and Brad give an inside look at current information security news, breaches, best practices, and other things you should know to improve your information security. Here are your hosts, FRSecure's Evan Francine and Brad Nye.
Hello, listeners. This is another episode of the UNSECURITY podcast. My name is Evan Francine. This is episode 71, and the date is March 16th? No, it's the 17th. Hey, you're not supposed to talk yet, Brad. I didn't introduce you. No,
I'm not here.
You can talk. Yeah, March 16th, 2020. Joining me in studio is my buddy Brad Nye. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Evan.
How are you?
Good. All things considered.
Yeah, right. The world is. So you saw my show notes.
Down. Yeah.
It was the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, that had to be very bizarre.
It was crazy, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. You're good. It's good to be back. But yeah, I guess we can catch up a little bit. What was last week like for you?
It was interesting because, it's probably a pretty universal thing. We started the week off with, all right, well, we'll just keep an eye on it and see what happens. And then by Friday, all the sports leagues had shut down and, now here we are, recommendation of gatherings of no more than 10 and cities in quarantine and lockdown. It's crazy.
Yeah. So you did read my Twilight Zone reference?
I thought it was a pretty amusing write-up. I can see how that would be very surreal to be like, hey, we leave and there's this thing that's maybe kind of sort of happening and then coming back to, 75, 80% of flights are being grounded and.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy because when I left, it was the 5th or maybe the 4th of March. So like 12 days ago. Mm-hmm. And we were gone for 10 days. So when we left, the coronavirus obviously has been around since December. We knew about it. We knew that there were things happening and, knew about cruise ships. We were going on a cruise. So we'd heard about the Princess, some of the Princess stuff. Mm-hmm. So, we thought we were fairly well prepared. And we got to the cruise terminal. This is in Long Beach, California. And arrived at the cruise terminal and everybody's just standing around. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And, so rumors start to fly. People like to just make up stuff. But then we find out that somebody on the previous cruise got sick. And so they were not allowing anybody to get off the ship that we were supposed to be getting on until that person got tested and was, and found to be, the test to be negative. So, we sort of found out firsthand that even in an emergency situation like this, where you've got 4,000 people stuck on a boat, pulling all the strings possible, it still took, 12 hours at least to get the test results back.
Yeah.
So that ended up happening. So we thought, the cruise is probably going to get canceled.
Right.
So we were like, well, we'll just rent a car and drive down to Mexico and, we'll make the best of it. Well, they didn't cancel the cruise. Instead, we still didn't know whether this person was going to, we didn't know the test results. So Carnival, who was the cruise line, said, well, if you get a hotel room tonight, we'll reimburse you up to $200. Right. So I thought, it was awesome. Why not? So we waited at the cruise terminal. Before we got that news, we waited there till about 8:00 and then we got that news. And so then we just packed up and headed to a hotel, spent the night in the hotel. I got up in the morning and had a text from Carnival saying, good news. The results were negative. We're going to just cut the cruise short a day. So like, awesome. That's,
better than nothing.
Nice. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, everything was just sort of weird from that point on. So we got on the cruise ship on Sunday instead of Saturday. And then I love doing cruises because it forces me to disconnect. Mm-hmm. even if you buy the internet package, which I do, it just stinks. So why even waste your time?
Right. It's not the greatest.
Yeah. But I give Carnival a lot of credit, man. They had hand sanitizers everywhere. You weren't allowed, even in the buffet lines, they had somebody from Carnival there to get the food for you. So you couldn't even touch utensils. It was just very, very clean.
Taking those precautions. That's good.
Yeah. It was really good. The cruise was fun, everything. And then you get kind of back into port and I start, kind of reading everything. And I'm like, holy crap, what happened?
Right.
Everything went to hell.
Yeah.
They couldn't get toilet paper, I heard, and couldn't, buy food and couldn't get sanitizers. And I was like, what in the world is going on with people?
Yeah. Even now, it's like there's no Tylenol, there's no cough medicine.
Right. And so I started, just doing math. I'm like, how many people actually are infected? And at the time it was, it's increased significantly, I think, just in the last 3 days. But it was, maybe 3,000 people at the time. And so you do the math and it's like 0.0003% of the U.S. population. I'm like, I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird.
Yeah, this is a really unique situation in that it seems to be a vast majority of people that get it are asymptomatic or don't have symptoms for 5 to 14 days.
Right.
So, and now we got a testing issue where they don't have enough tests, and so what are the real numbers is kind of
right.
We don't know.
Yeah, it's true. And even the numbers, coming out of China, you read that, essentially the outbreak is sort of stopped there, but it's a communist country. So is that information you're getting correct?
Right. Well, and then they basically just shut down.
Right.
And they force people to stay home, which it's a lot more difficult in other countries. But, you're seeing it in Italy and Spain.
Yeah.
These things are starting, it's, logarithmic.
Yeah, but it's just the thing that really struck me as being just insane was the panic.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Panic never helps anybody. Use common sense. Use your, you and I right now we're recording this podcast in a studio, but we're 8 feet away from each other right now.
Yeah.
We moved to another room so we could be more separated.
And we have people walking by the windows making faces as they come in now.
Are they?
Yes. Luckily, you have your back to it, so.
Yeah. Well, I don't pay attention. You know that.
But yeah, no, it's interesting. It's like people saw it and did panic. It's like the supply chain is still there.
Right.
Stores are getting restocked. Do you really need 5 packs of however many rolls of Costco toilet paper?
Right.
It's like, you're never going to need toilet paper again.
Yeah. And I get that people, they fear the unknown, but I think people sometimes just lose the ability to just think, just think it through for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
If I wash my hands and I stay at appropriate distance away from people, if I notice somebody, and you said, a vast majority are asymptomatic, but we don't even know what a vast majority is yet, right? It's still so early on in the whole process. And the thing that kind of weirds me out is this isn't the first time we've had a pandemic.
Right.
It was only 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I know it was something totally different. This is a coronavirus that was, the H1N1.
Right.
But it came up from Mexico. There was, I think it was 2009, 2010. 60 million Americans were infected and 12,000 Americans died.
Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting. It is surprising that the memory seems to be so short about, hey, we survived that. Yes, it was disruptive, but not into the world.
Yeah. And so where we sit right now is we have 4,743 cases. And that's media reported. Officially confirmed as 4,396 cases. The number of deaths is 92. So if you put that into context with the United States population of 330 million, those numbers, even though one would be significant, those numbers themselves are not all that significant in the greater context of things. But like you said, the scale, it's still going up.
Yeah.
Right. When you look at the plot, the graph of the number of cases,
well,
you need it to somehow even out, and start to come down.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, if you look, this is where it gets kind of that scary, where we want to flatten the curve. And it's not that people are going to, be overwhelmed by it. It's the healthcare system of that small percentage that do have a severe reaction. Mm-hmm. That small percentage is still a big number.
Well, and you talk about healthcare. So if somebody were sick with the coronavirus, there's a big load on the system in terms of getting tested, but there's no cure. So they essentially send you home in quarantine.
Unless you're high risk.
Sick. But 80+% of the symptoms of people who are showing symptoms are mild.
Right.
So only 20% have severe symptoms. Right. So if you just kind of think it all through, it's like, I'm probably not going to die. Neither are you.
Just be smart.
Not from this anyway. We are all going to die. But I don't know. It's just I get it. Take proper precautions. We're taking proper precautions here at mm-hmm. work. We're taking proper precautions at home where I live. I don't mind, closing down, big group gatherings and, all that other stuff. But it's just the kind of the premise of fear mm-hmm. It's the undercurrent of all of this, right? We didn't have this in 2009, 2010, and so things are so much different. I don't think the media did us a good job here.
No. Well, and I think it's partly because, right, it is this exponential growth instead of a slow curve up where it's kind of predictable. It's like,
sorry, that's my computer.
But yeah, like from the 13th, there was 2,100 cases, and in 4 days, it's doubled. Right. I mean, that's significant.
Sure.
And I think it's this unknown that is worrying people.
What did the logarithmic curve look like in H1N1? Have you seen that?
I actually did see that, and I can't remember where it was. I was looking for it this morning.
I wonder if it was similar to this one, because we talk about mortality rates as well, and it's way too early in the outbreak to even call out what a true mortality rate is here.
Right. Yeah, we don't have enough data now. In China and Italy and Spain, where some of the places where it's been a little bit further and there's more testing, it does seem to be kind of in that 3 to 4% range mm-hmm. from what I've seen.
Right.
Which is, that's a significant number, but
I just don't remember an H1N1 us tracking it like this. I don't remember a scoreboard. I don't remember, I don't remember any toilet paper outages. I don't remember.
I know.
I don't think they closed down schools. I mean, I don't remember any of this.
Yeah, it is very, very strange. And I don't know. It shows how fast the world has changed in, 10 years even.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what does this mean for us? What does this mean for information security, in your opinion?
I think the biggest thing we've seen is how unprepared companies have been to handle remote work. And, I think that's where we're pretty lucky in our business model is, we promote flexible work, hey, work from home if you want. So, for us, this is how we built the organization. Come into the office. We'd love you to be here, but if you work better from home, we have the things in place. Right. And I think what we're seeing is that the vast majority of companies that have been like, nope, are now absolutely scrambling and unprepared.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that too. And, and just in proper messaging, most companies don't have business continuity plans, so they don't have, what's the process for handling a pandemic. And even those who do have business continuity plans, they write pandemic stuff in there, but most of them don't have anything of substance in it. So, and I think including, probably FRSecure, met as a management team and talked through, what is the proper messaging? What is the prudent thing to do? One of the things you don't really want to be in a pandemic is be an outlier, meaning somebody who isn't going to take this seriously and is just going to say, nope, everybody's still coming to work and, business as usual. Because then if somebody did by chance get sick, you're in big trouble.
Yeah. So let's see if that's true. I think, and what we're starting to see is that the younger people that, the reports are all, elderly or health, severe underlying health issues. But when you start actually doing the testing, and there's been some initial testing out there, it appears that the younger people are actually carrying a higher viral load and showing no symptoms. Mm-hmm. So you've got these 20-somethings that are going, well, I feel great, I'm fine.
Right.
But they're actually contagious at the time. So I think that's kind of that unknown.
But, then you start to get sort of like freaky because I think we're all carrying something at some point and, kind of at all times. So it's like germs are germs and there's always been germs and we all carry germs. And, at what point do we start getting really, really paranoid? And just the one thing that I fear is our world has gotten so much less social over time, right? Now everybody's online. People spend less time together, gathered, talking, face-to-face stuff. And now, we're almost through this pandemic, we're being forced by the pandemic to isolate and use online stuff. And I just hope it goes back. Once this is, that curve comes back down again, I'm hoping we can try to get back to being more social. I hope this doesn't just continue.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it's going to, from a business perspective and security, I think it's going to change how businesses do work, right? Mm-hmm. And working on how do you allow remote, be more prepared for, remote work. We had a question come in yesterday from one of our clients that asked and said, hey, for VPN, can we use split tunneling? Because we're worried about the internet load. I'm like, no. I mean,
you can, but
yeah,
wouldn't advise.
Our advice is please don't. If you do, here are your risks. You're opening up how many connections into your internal network from unknown networks,
right? Across
whatever the users are doing from home. And then, so you better segment that VPN ingress point, isolate it and have all kinds of controls in place and monitor the, heck out of it. Are you prepared for that?
Right.
Or do you just say, hey, we're going to have to pay for increased internet while this happens?
Sure. Yeah, it's a risk decision, I suppose, just like every,
but it's those things that people never considered.
Right.
So I think you're going to see a lot more of those types of things happening. And
sure. Well, one of the things, we had a management team meeting yesterday and you were in another one. But in the executive leadership team meeting, we talked about, well, what does this mean for the business? What does this mean long-term? Mm-hmm. We expect and it was interesting. The word that was used was fallout. So, it was one of the other executives and said, we expect the fallout to last 12 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of spoke up and said, why fallout? I mean, do information security needs and requirements and things go away because we have a pandemic? If anything, it becomes worse.
Yeah.
Right? Because people now are distracted, rightfully so, by the pandemic, by the bad things that are happening there. And so they're less paying attention to the details, paying attention to the security stuff. And we also, it's almost like a perfect storm because we also have a significant increase in the number of attacks that happen during things like this. And the fact that we're pushing people out to remote when we haven't ever accounted for some of these employees working remote. So it's like three things that combined make for a pretty bad scenario. Even if you do recover from the pandemic itself, how many breaches did you have? How many other things did you encounter?
Well, I think you're going to see, a shift in what we're doing, right? It's short term. I think you'll see more incidents. You'll see, more consulting around, helping people, businesses make sure that they are better prepared and tightening up and, more, little shorter engagements to, do, kind of our infrastructure kind of network architecture review, where we come in and talk about what do you have for logging? What are you doing for VPN and making recommendations? I think that you'll see a shift to more of that short term. And then as things normalize, right? I think, we saw, the president said, expect some of these controls to last into August.
Right.
So I think through kind of August, September, we're going to see a shift in some of that stuff. And then coming out of it, then I would expect, there to be a big move forward with, okay, it's going to be a wake up call for a lot of companies, I think.
Sure.
Just because you don't realize what the security impacts of something like this are going to be.
Yeah. And I don't expect, I don't expect a downturn in our business, in information security, because if anything, the threats have increased, the risks have increased. It's just like every other incident response, right? When a bad thing happens, you get a chance to control the message, right? So what's the message we would send to our customers, to prospective customers? It's the same message, right? We're a partner. We're not in this to find money to make from you. We're in this to serve, to solve problems. And so now your problems are just different problems, but you still have problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got, you may be an incident, right? If you're not paying attention, we might see a significant increase in our incident response services. We might see a significant increase in, remote worker strategy development, something like that. We might see a significant increase in business continuity planning or disaster recovery planning.
Yep.
So it's just the needs might shift a little bit, but one of the things I don't want people to do is, take their eye off the ball. Certainly if you've already spent money on information security, and then if you take your eye off the ball, and that could all be just money pissed away if you're not doing something about it.
Yeah, it'll be, I think, this will be interesting to see. We're kind of in an unprecedented situation. So we all have our different kind of projections and opinions and thoughts on this. And
right. Well, and when there's so much mass confusion, when there's not a single message, when there's not this, it's a really good opportunity, because I've done it enough in incident responses where the scope is different, right?
Okay. Yeah. Well, right, all the time.
But the panic isn't.
Right. Oh, no, absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying is I get to choose the message to bring the panic in line with what I want you to do.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think with incident response, so much of it is coming in and you're working with people that are, hair on fire. Oh my God.
Right.
We are down, and being calm and kind of being in charge and reassuring and, hey, that's all right. Well, let's figure this out. Here's our plan. We're going to do A, B, C, and D, see what that comes back with, come up with a plan based on those results. And, it's a good point. I think maybe that's why we're not as concerned, as this is something we do all the time.
Well, right. And the world continues to turn. Right? I mean, it just does. The fact of the matter is, regardless of whether you like it or not, every day people are born, every day people die. Yep. It's just the way the world has always worked. There's waves, there's been so many pandemics and so many things over the course of history, and the human race has always survived.
Be smart.
Yeah. I mean, I just prefer to use, let's think this through. And that's one of the things that's gotten us through and made us so good at incident responses. I don't know if anybody has ever seen me panic. I don't know if I do panic. I don't even know if I got it in me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, well, all right, let's deal with it. I mean, even when I had cancer, it's like, aren't you worried? I'm like, worried about what? Dying? Yeah, I'm going to die. I mean, we all are.
Right.
Am I ready to die? Sure. I mean, I have faith. I believe.
Prefer not to, but.
Right. I mean, I think I have a purpose here. That's why I'm still alive, but I don't know. It's just a different kind of mentality. I've been accused in numerous incident responses before of, not numerous, well, yeah, 2, 3, of, leading an incident response and the customer saying to me, do you even care about this? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you're not showing any emotion. Well,
yep,
yeah, I mean,
that's what makes me good.
I think, it's, yeah. And don't take my lack of emotion, don't take my lack of panic as not caring.
Right.
I care deeply about people, but I'm just not going to freak out.
Well, and that's the thing. Like our team wouldn't be working till 4 a.m, right, and then back up, somebody else is up at 5.
Right.
If Absolutely. They didn't care. Now, are they like panic? No. Right. It's, hey, good morning. Here's who I'm going to be your primary contact today. Here's what we've seen overnight, making sure you're on top of things. I'm going to check and see where we're at. I'll let you know if anything changes. Yeah. Here's our plan.
Yeah. Well, I think so. If I were a company, I am. I mean, we are. But if I was a normal company, like a small business, this is one of the things that really scares me and makes me sad. Is that some small businesses won't recover?
No.
From this.
So just when I was just saying that, it clicked. We talk in business continuity and incident response about controlling the message. And I think that's probably been a big piece of this is we haven't had a consistent message from the top. Well, right. From politicians, but even if whoever it is.
Even if you did, though, the media in this case is just lift this up so bad.
I wouldn't argue that. But when you have different countries saying different things and different people within the country saying different things and contradicting each other, right? That's why in an incident response, we say there's one person responsible for messaging.
Exactly.
You've got 50 people saying 50 different things. And now, right, that's when you get all this confusion.
Right.
We're totally relevant to, quote unquote real life. And that's what we preach in an incident.
You're absolutely
Who is your contact? Who is your person that you're going to have communicate internally and externally?
Yep.
You have one person. Nobody else gets to say anything.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think in the case of the pandemic itself, it seems like there's been, and I don't want to get political, but it seems like from the administration, there's been a single message. The message has changed, but it's been a single sort of voice. I think where it gets really funky is you've got so many inputs when you read the news and people aren't listening to the administration anyway. They're listening to social media. They're listening to MSNBC or CNN or Fox News.
Well, and then you've got this, every state is saying different things and right. Nobody's on the same page.
Well, so. I think there was some talk about the fact that I think President Trump had fired the pandemic team at some point.
Yeah. Like 2018.
Yeah. So that probably.
That didn't help, I'm sure.
Probably bad timing, but.
Oh
well.
Hindsight and all.
Right. So I think for a company, my advice for a company would be survive, first of all.
Yeah.
Right? You need to do whatever it takes to survive, right? So you may have to cut staff. You may have to, I don't know.
I think,
whatever it takes to live through it. And then what can you learn from it so that the next time this happens, because it will, it may be 5 years.
In some other way, but
it might be 20 years. It's going to happen again. What can you take and learn?
Well, I think, like you said, it's going to be a shock to a lot of companies that have held on to those, I don't want to sound the old school, right? Thinking, hey, everybody's butts in the seats from 8 to 5. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be, we like I said, we do remote work. We have some people that only come in, we have people that work exclusively from home, and we have some people that are local that only come in on Mondays for, all of our team meetings and stuff. And it works if you have the controls in place and you treat people like adults, right?
Right.
And I think it'll be eye-opening for that. And it'll be interesting to see what the fallout is. But yeah, I know that there's a lot of companies that are like, well, we have computers. Do they take our computers home? Do they work from their home computers? What do we do? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, yeah, those are two very significant risks different risks that you have to weigh. Are you going to allow your machine mm-hmm. into an uncontrolled environment where at least you can still patch it, kind of what's on it? Or do you let some unknown machine connect into your network, and what do you have in place?
Right. And
I think that's the biggest struggle that a lot of these companies are dealing with is they're not prepared they'd never thought of that stuff.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And the on the old school thinking, one of the things that I really miss about remote working is just the personal interaction,
mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You can't ever replace face-to-face conversations, seeing each other's,
right.
Facial reactions and joking around and having a good time. And so hopefully when we go back to, offices opening again, people don't just, all right, we're just going to strictly be a remote office,
right?
Because you miss out on so much. When I see you face-to-face, it's, there's just no replacement for it.
Oh, I agree. And personally, I prefer working in the office.
Yeah.
Right. Like I enjoy seeing the people.
Yeah.
Can I work remotely? Yeah. It's
right.
not a problem, but
right.
But everybody's is a little different.
Yeah. And we were trying to, and it's not, we'll have to see where this ends up going at some point. But I always liked the theory was, and this was years ago, to have Monday be kind of the meeting days. So mm-hmm. everybody come to the office and we'll have our whatever meetings we need and discuss things. And then it'd be Tuesday through Thursday where you'd be out, working with clients, right. working remotely, whatever. We all know what needs to be done and we just do it. And then Fridays would, if we worked really, really hard Tuesday through Thursday, Fridays we could come to the office and play.
Right.
Have tournaments, race go-karts, and then Kevin, maybe get rid of them. Whatever. Jeez, I got to turn that stuff off, but I've been gone for a while.
But yeah, I think, it's good. You want the office to be a place where people want to come in.
Right.
And I think we do have that here. It's just that we.
You gotta be kidding me. Did you just cough?
I did. It's okay.
It was funny. This is sort of funny, but when I was on the cruise ship, I sneezed, and everybody looked at me like, they all took kind of step back. And I said, I just kind of yelled, allergies.
Yeah, I know. I have allergies.
That's all it was. I'm not.
It's been horrible. That's an interesting other social piece of this is, right, I've had allergies. I've had them my entire life. And this is the time of year where they start to pop up. And it's like, I can't cough in public. People are going to beat me.
No, you'll be fine.
But.
All right. So, there's a lot of information security, I think, implications with this. One is people are distracted. And again, rightfully so, right? You have to protect your health, the health of your family. That comes first. Where does information security fit in all of this? Where does it fit as a risk? It is one. It doesn't go away.
Right. Well,
but, it's juggling priorities.
And we know, it happens every time there's any newsworthy thing. The attackers are going to use it. We're already seeing the increase of phishing attempts and malicious websites. There was the one that got stood up that had an Android app. They were basically mimicking the Johns Hopkins map website, and then you would download an app onto your Android, and it would encrypt your Android. $100 in Bitcoin or $100 to unlock it. Now, luckily, some good researcher was able to reverse engineer it and put out the decryption key for free. but you're already seeing a huge spike in these types of things. And, from a business perspective, hey, be aware of these things. Get that message out there now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, working from home, we've got a number of issues that come up from an information security standpoint. One, we have to control the message. I assume that everybody's going to have to communicate to their customers, to their employees. So, you talked about the way we do it in an incident response is we make one person responsible for internal communications and another person, or maybe the same person, but only one person or team, be approved to communicate externally. Mm-hmm. We follow that same process here. So you're going to have to figure out what your message is going to be. You want your message to be factual. You want your message to be as accurate as possible. Depending on who your audience is, you want it to be transparent, or at least come off as being transparent, because that builds trust with your audience. And you want the communication to be somewhat regular, meaning as there are updates to whatever's changing, you're communicating that.
Yeah, it's reassurance to customers. You're staying on top of it.
Yeah. So your communication tips. Our communication to our customers was an email that I wrote, a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
I wrote it. It went through, a number of, revisions to make sure I didn't say anything too offensive or whatever, because there are days, right? Some days I write something better than other days. So it's good to have it go through an approval process. Even if it's the CEO of the company who's writing the message, there still needs to be an approval process for it. And then, so we communicated to the customers. Basically what we communicated is that we're still here. Mm-hmm. We still care. We're still working. We don't see any disruption to our business. We'll be able to, because we are built to work remotely. So we'll be able to service customers. Really the only true service that we do that we can't do remotely is physical penetration testing and things. So, and that's such a small percentage of our overall business and workload. So that was the message externally. The message internally, came from, John Harmon, our president, sent a message, sort of early on, which was kind of a reassuring message. Vinay, our CFO, sent one yesterday. Yep. I was thinking about writing one sometime, maybe today or tomorrow, and my message is different, right? So you've got John, who's kind of a, bold leader kind of
no
message,
nonsense.
Right? And then you've got Renee, who's kind of a detail. Mm-hmm. This is what we're doing. Then you got me, who's kind of a love you guys, here for you if you need anything kind of message. But that's one thing. So you got the message, and then you have to continue the operations. Like you said, we are built for this. So it doesn't affect us all that much. Yeah. For people who aren't built for this, you're going to have to adjust. You're going to have to figure out a way to continue. And it depends on the kind of business you are.
Right.
If you're a restaurant, God, I feel terrible because all those restaurants in the state of Minnesota are being closed at 5 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, I think it's just for dine-in though. So delivery and takeout still, but it's going to be so disruptive.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, but, and if you're a retail operation, like Apple just closed all their stores outside of China.
Nike
they've got, $50 billion in cash, so they don't hurt them.
The flip side is I saw just something, yesterday, Amazon is hiring 100,000 people and increasing pay $2 an hour because of the increase in orders. Shipping. Right. Sure. So there's going to be delivery services. There's going to be some companies and organizations that are going to kind of maybe step up and fill the gap of, hey, we need people.
Yeah. But the SMBs don't give a crap. You know what I mean? But it doesn't help the guy who's listening to the podcast.
I know.
Going, okay, great. I'm glad Amazon's doing well. What am I going to do?
I know. But it's interesting to see that variance.
Yeah. It bothers me a lot that, these SMBs are, because that's really the heartbeat of America, right?
The majority of people are employed by.
Right. And dreams, you got people, running these businesses who've always dreamt about owning their business, and, they open their business and they get it going, and boom, pandemic.
Right.
Like, seriously?
Right.
It wasn't necessarily a bad business decision that did me in. It was
something completely out of my control.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. I think. Yeah.
Well, and what we're going to do and what we committed to doing is doing as much as we can to help, right? So we'll write as much content as we can write. That's what we're going to be doing beyond just our normal kind of workload is, what are things that people would like us to provide guidance on, and we'll provide it for free.
Yeah.
We'll write something.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Marketing's already been filling up my inbox. I'm like, wait.
Right. Well, and at Security Studio, we're, making S2Me. I mean, S2Me has always been free, but, S2Me, the version 2, which is gamified, and, a mobile version, which is a personal information security risk assessment, which works perfectly for home users.
Right.
And home users, it's the same habits that I use at home that I'm bringing into the office. So there's a good benefit there. We're also making S2 Team free.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. For at least the next 90 days.
Okay.
We might make it perpetually free. I mean, if we don't need it, for revenue,
that's very cool. That's literally news to me right now, but
well, the press release is going out today.
Okay. That's awesome. I would say right now, any small business, do that immediately.
Right.
Understand where your employees are.
Right.
Because then now you can understand where should you be focusing your efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah. Cause when the bad thing happens, which it will, it doesn't matter how many precautions you take and how great you do remote, worker security, bad things will still happen. But when one of the things you don't really, like a disaster situation would be you survive through the pandemic, business starts going again, and then you find out, oh my God, we had a breach.
Right.
And we didn't do anything to really protect ourselves. So when the lawsuits come, we didn't have anything. That could be a really bad situation.
Yeah.
So, and anyway, and it helps protect your employees, right? I mean, if I'm the leader of a company and my responsibility isn't just the viability of the company, it's the employees who work at the company. So if I can give them a tool that's free that will help them protect their family, their financial situation at home.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if it doesn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
So hopefully there are people listening that will use the S2Me free as a benefit to their employees, and then leverage the information that you gather for the S2 team so that you can make good information security decisions on how to secure people at home, how to secure your assets.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. So what else? Okay. So remote worker strategy. I'm also creating some other stuff there. I think I'm working on a kind of a document, because another thing you don't want to do is, even if you're a company that's always had remote workers, right? And so all you think you're doing then is, well, instead of 10 remote workers, it's all 100 of our employees are now going to be working remotely, or, 1,000, whatever. So the reason why you don't just want to stick with your traditional, well, just give them a laptop and a login to the VPN. The reason why you don't want to do that is, one, these are employees that have never been remote workers before.
Right.
Right. And so if you don't train them well, if they haven't been through the process or whatever else, then you're just exacerbating the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So the traditional approach is just give them a laptop, have them connect, maybe show them the policy, give them some canned training. All right, go for it. That's not going to motivate them to actually care about your security, right? You have to put it in a way that they're going to see their own benefit in it. That's why that S2Me is so important.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think, yeah, I know. It's concerning.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got people that have never done this.
Right.
And, we don't know, is their Wi-Fi wide open?
Right.
Who else is on that network now? We know that happens. You got
for sure.
Emotet spreading via Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot out there that's unsettling.
Right. And so, and truly, if you're not sure about, are you taking the most important precautions, ask somebody, call us. We don't work like lawyers. You're not going to get a bill if you ask us a question.
No, submit. There's a thing on the website. If you're not a customer, if you are, obviously reach out to whoever you're working with.
Right.
But if you're not, submit the request. We get those all the time. And if it's like, do this or don't, like the split tunneling.
Right.
Yeah, don't do split tunneling.
Right.
I'm not going to charge you for telling you like a 30-second response of that's a really bad idea.
Right. And even if you want reference, tell me why it's a bad idea.
Yeah. Well,
we'll go pull that data for you too.
And that one came in, yesterday, and it was like, no, well, here's why it's a bad idea. It opens up your network to everyone.
Right. So the most important precautions, if you haven't planned, it's not too late. It's never too late,
Right.
Obviously, it would have been better if you would have been planning prior to the pandemic and for being forced to do this stuff. But ideally, you have a policy of some sort that outlines what the rules for the game are so that everybody can reference the rules for the game. They're not meant to be read. They're meant to be referenced. So you have some rules for the game. You've got, whatever technological method you're using that you've given thought to it, right? You've done some, design. Somebody, ideally somebody that's not you has looked it over the architecture of whatever remote access technology you're using. And you can really secure almost all of them, right? So to say, well, you can only VPN, that's the only way, to that will work successfully. Maybe. I mean, there's some cloud services too that you could, log into. A lot of people now are moving to. Anyway, there's just lots of different ways that you can work remotely. You may not even need remote access. Beyond, maybe email.
Yeah, and that's a good question. Have you even considered what they need?
Right.
Right. Does everybody actually need VPN, or do they just need? Do you work in a cloud service where it's just like, okay, go to this website and check your email and work in this application in the cloud. You don't actually need to be on our network.
Right. Yeah. And my two biggest kind of things are never single factor authentication.
Oh yeah.
On anything remote. Right. So, 2-factor authentication on everything remotely accessible. Number one, that's a
which you should have been doing anyway.
Right. And that's non-negotiable. I mean, that is a must because those things are just asked to be phished or asked to be, sprayed, whatever.
Yep.
And the second thing is make sure that everything is encrypted, right? In transfer. If you do those two things, those are musts. It's me again.
Yeah. I think, if you're doing those things, that's reasonable.
That's the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of other things that go into it, but those are probably two of the biggest ones for me. All right. So if you haven't planned well, it's not too late. How can you use S2Me and S2 Team? Look for, now that's from Security Studio. I work at FRSecure and Security Studio. Security Studio will be issuing a press release later on today, about making S2 Team free.
That's
for
awesome.
At least the next 90 days. S2Me has always been free. If you haven't done an S2Me assessment before, https://s2me.io is the website to go to. It's free. All you have to do is register and do your thing. And when you register, you're not going to get spammed by us. We're not those kind of people.
No.
We just truly want to help.
Evan will run over whoever spams you with his truck.
That's right. I drive an F-250, man.
Right.
I do. Brush guard is broken, not from running somebody over, but that's all
I have to put the disclaimer in there.
Yeah. All right. So that's kind of where we're at. Pandemic, it'll continue. This is going to go on for a while, and it's not going to be the last one. So, get your stuff together. If you don't know how to get your stuff together, call somebody, talk to somebody who you trust, who's credible. And that would be, obviously it's us, but, anybody else. There are other information security consulting companies and consultants practitioners who are trustworthy, who are credible, know what the hell they're doing. Get in contact with somebody.
Right.
Don't let this just kind of fester and expect it to go away. Right? Ignorance is not going to solve this for you. You need to take care of it. So, all right. So thanks for sharing, and thank you for a great discussion, sir. To wrap this up, I wanted to highlight 2 online discussions I had the other day about coronavirus on Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter's always a fun place to get into discussions. The first started with a question posed by a Twitter user. The user said or asked, "So how are you talking to your children about the pandemic?" And I thought that was a great question. Excuse me. That was not coronavirus. But how do you talk to your children about this coronavirus thing?
I think you're on the same page as I am. We're very open and frank with them about it, right? Like, what benefit is there to lie into them?
Right.
Even our 5-year-old, we found one of his preschool teachers had posted a social story, I think they're called. So it's basically like kind of pictures, like almost like a comic, right, of what this means, what you do about it. And we're just telling them, here's what we know. Here's how you can determine the truth and where to look, and how do you weed out, that hysteria from and panic from the real source of truth. Mm-hmm. It's a good life skill they'll need anyway. So we've been just very frank and upfront with them, and shared messages from the school to them, and hey, not even filtered. Hey, here's the message from the superintendent.
Right.
We thought you were going to do online learning starting on Wednesday. It's not starting until April 6th, which as a parent goes, oh dear God, what am I going to do for 3 weeks?
Right.
But, that's a different story. But, that's our approach. My wife and I we're honest with them. Here's what's going on. Here's what we know. Here's what it means.
Yeah. It didn't cause any disruption. All my kids are grown up now, except for the one, a 15-year-old. It didn't change anything. We've always told our kids things about, specifically around, coronavirus, wash your hands, cover your mouth. Those are things that we didn't have to we have the coronavirus now. We should tell our daughter this. She already knew. And they know that the world is a dangerous place. That it's wonderful. It's beautiful. There's great things, but there's danger. This is another danger.
Like last week when school was still in, we were talking, and it was like Monday or Tuesday, and they were asking about it. And so, the recommendation is wash your hands like 5 times a day with soap for 20 seconds, and it reduces your risk by like 40-something%. And the elder one, who's 14, was like, oh, so I should just wash my hands between class.
Sure.
I'm like, yeah. Don't touch your face and wash your hands between class.
Right.
Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah, and that goes a real long way. And then fist bumps. Mm-hmm. I've always kind of done fist bumps, not because I was germ averse. I just thought it was easier.
Yeah. I thought
not have an excuse.
I did see a funny thing on Twitter. It was like, well, maybe this pandemic will finally get rid of that disgusting ritual of the handshake.
Oh, well, I like the handshakes because I learned handshakes as a sign of respect, and where handshakes originally came from, it was to show that your hand didn't contain a weapon.
Right. But now, the follow-up is, I'm seeing all these,
because I would hate, I just
how to wash your hands.
I hate, and it makes me sad to think that handshakes will die.
It'd be interesting to see.
Germs. It's like, because we've just, anyway.
It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Right.
I think they probably will for a while.
Oh, for sure. I've already seen that. Like I would, I just do it out of habit. Sometimes I'll just reach my hand out to shake somebody's hand. And there've been a couple times where people, pulled back and I'm like, all right. And, we did an elbow bump. We didn't even do a fist bump. They were that kind of.
Yeah. Well, you never know. Maybe have some immunocompromised person at home too, right? Yeah. So you got to give benefit of the doubt.
Sure. Yeah. So the other, message we had on Twitter, which I thought was sort of interesting, because I'm fairly, I will engage on Twitter. So if you are following me and on Twitter, it's just at my name, Evan Francine. And another one, they were saying, calling for everybody in politics to be removed from office or something like that. And so that was, to me, it was very much a panic type of thing. And so I just responded. I said, did we have the same reaction with H1N1 that infected more than 59 million Americans and killed more than 12,000? It was only 10 years ago. And the reaction I got was not any type of open discussion, because it was a legitimate question. I didn't mean any offense by it. I wasn't, calling somebody out for being stupid, nothing like that. And what I got was blocked by this user. And I was like, well, that's not we're all in this together. We need to have open dialogue. If somebody says something that you don't agree with, you don't just block them. There are trolls out there too who are just in it to be jerks. Right. But, in this case, it was obvious I wasn't trying to be a jerk. Anyway, that's sad when you see that. Don't be that person. Engage in discussion. Yeah. Because there are plenty of opinions too about what's currently going on, and opinions should be heard as long as they're respectful. Right. Yeah. And I think, again, I found the little article about the spread of this compared to the others. Mm-hmm. And through like day 28, coronavirus is way ahead of like SARS or Ebola or MERS or any of those other ones. How about H1N1? Yeah. It's ahead of swine flu. It's ahead of all those. But it's been such a short period. We don't know what's going to happen. Sure. Right. But if you look at that really short term, it's like, oh. But the fact, exactly. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Right. They've already started vaccines. They've already started. I don't know what's going to happen today. Not even just with this, but just with anything. Right. Is there a gas leak in the back and the building's just going to blow up? Right. Maybe. There's just so many things that are unknown, and the unknown shouldn't be scary. Right. That's just my opinion. Unless you're in like the Pacific Ocean and there are sharks. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this turns out. Yeah. Well, and it will turn out eventually. All right. So we have two news items, quick, non-coronavirus news, because I had to pick something where we didn't have to keep beating this horse. It's getting tiring. Massive cyber attack hit the town hall of Marseille ahead of local election. Did you read about this one? This is on Security Affairs website. Yeah. Municipal elections in Marseille. So while the coronavirus was spreading worldwide, a massive cyber attack hit the town hall of Marseille and the metropolis. This is 2020 election. 300 machines were made inoperable. Yeah, it just says ransomware. It'd be interesting to know which one it was. Right. Well, this is, and it's another case of, local government that was, hit by ransomware. We're seeing ransomware. There'll be an uptick for sure. So if you haven't taken proper precautions, that's just another thing you have to take care of, right? If you're not backing up your data and air gapping it. There's some basic things you can do. Have logging alerting with a separate, not on your domain, separate. Right. Have your backups air gapped or separate with a different set of credentials, not on the domain. Well, that's why I chose that one, because it's just one of those examples where, coronavirus. Oh crap. Ransomware, it happens just like that. I've seen it so many times. You just got to call. We just got one yesterday for ransomware. Right. It's so just because you're preoccupied with your coronavirus doesn't mean the attackers are like, oh, well, we'll just wait till the coronavirus dies down before we start sending ransomware or doing a phishing attack or whatever else they're doing. No, this is the time when they hit twice as hard, twice as often. So pay attention. Next article I have is from GB Hackers on Security. The title is Ex-CIA Official Allegedly Leaked CIA's Secret Hacking Tools to WikiLeaks. Did you catch this one? Yeah, it was, I'll be honest, usually the GB Hackers are
easy to follow. The way that it was written was a little bit
kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a verdict in the case, 8,000 classified CIA documents to the known whistleblower. And he did it under the name Vault 7. So this is ex-CIA agent Joshua Schulte, who was found guilty on 2 counts of contempt of court and presenting false reports to the FBI investigators. And then there's a bunch of other information. And nowadays, I think most of this information that was leaked is no longer really all that sensitive. I mean, it's still sensitive, but
yeah,
it's sort of old news now. But it's interesting that, years later, the prosecution is still just
it was interesting. They had found him not guilty on 8 counts of transmission of the documents, but guilty on contempt of court and basically lying.
Yeah.
But they couldn't prove he actually did it. They just said, well, it seems like you lied to him.
Yeah, they could prove that he lied, but they couldn't prove that he sent the information.
Right.
And I'm guessing it, I haven't read the entire case or anything like that or whatever's, public. But usually it's a chain of custody thing somewhere. So they needed logs from a certain system, certain server or something like that, and they couldn't obtain those. And so it was a break in the chain. Which then inserts your reasonable doubt. So anyway, interesting story there. And you can always go to the show notes that's on, my website, evanfrancine.com, if you want to read that stuff. In closing, that's it. Do you got anything to add?
No.
We could talk all day about coronavirus, I assume. And I like the fact that you and I think have differing slightly differing opinions on coronavirus, which I'm all for, man.
Yeah.
God knows I don't have all the answers on this thing.
And it would be so boring to surround yourself with just yes men.
Oh, tell me about it. Well, and I'm one of those people where I'd even, and it sounds crazy, but I would even, and I was telling you this earlier, I would even purposely get infected so that I could have, but then you brought up a good point. If I could, my body would build the immunity in, 2 weeks of sickness, because in 80% of the cases, the symptoms are mild. It's like, fine, give it to me. I'll live through the 2 weeks, and then I'm back to not worrying about this.
And you're not contagious. You're not going to worry. You can actually be helpful and
right.
But
we'll see. We don't even know for sure if you can be reinfected.
Right.
So
it's just so new.
Know that answer yet. So as soon as we find out that you can't be reinfected, I'll go get infected.
I'd prefer to wait for the vaccine.
Spend my 2 weeks at home. But the vaccine, they're saying
it's going to be months.
18 months, I heard.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, there you have it. Episode 71. It's good to be home. It's good to be, back here, even though the world went to crap while I was gone. Let's hope and pray for a good week with some sanity. Let's hope, we start getting some factual information, a lot less hoopla, that kind of stuff. If you've got something to say, you can certainly email us. We do love hearing from you. unsecurity@protonmail.com. If you'd rather do the whole social media thing, I tweet a lot more than you do, Brad.
Yeah.
Are you an introvert?
Yeah, I did respond. If people actually
I'm an introvert. So
people
it's
at me, I'll respond.
Yeah, I'm an introvert, so it is a task for me to use. And you don't have to, obviously. It's not a job requirement or nothing. But I'm at Evan Francine. It's EVAN FRANCEN, and Brad is at Brad Nye, BRADNIGH. Check out our security studio. Which is weird on Twitter because it's actually at Studio Security because somebody else had Security Studio and there's no way to get it. When it's gone. It's just like the Unsecurity. There is an Unsecurity podcast or an Unsecurity Twitter handle that has been inactive for many years now. And the guy doesn't respond, so
you'll never
be able to get it. All right. So anyway, check out at Studio Security. Check out at FRSecure. Frequently, they do post a lot of stuff, and hopefully most of it is good. Keep an eye out for the press release coming later today for Security Studio. Both Brad and I are praying for your health and for our own health, the health of our families, your families. Please don't panic. make good decisions. Use your mind, use your head, use facts whenever you can find them. And that's it. So we'll talk to you all next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the UNSECURITY podcast. We value our listeners and would love to hear from you. Give us your feedback by emailing us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. That's UNSECURITY@protonmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week to hear the latest insights from Brad and Evan.